get out of there. But
is here.
oh, special guest is here. So we're going to wrap up that U23.
Yeah.
And we're going to welcome our guest here for the Canadian. Well, we've broken down the U23s and our special guest has arrived. If you don't recognize that, that's Daniel Haber. So 5 caps for Canada. We've gone through it all. So we've got a national team member here to help us break down that match. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to discussing.
Yeah, good. So here's what we'll start with. I'm going to start a little bit different in this breakdown for both of you, where I almost want to go over the players. Like let's go like almost player to player and kind of break it down in that way. Something a little bit different. But I want to start with like the star of the show. And briefly off camera, we talked about strikers and this guy's quality. Kyle Larin, like, I don't know what happened. Like last year, everybody was writing him off. He can't score goals, can't make it in Besiktas. Now he's dominating that league and just scored a hat trick. So Daniel, being a striker yourself, is that the most confident position on the face of the earth in any sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I met Kyle a number of years ago at a national team camp, and that guy is just hot right now. You can see tremendous improvement, but if you look back at some of his goals when he was in Orlando, you could just see that confidence. He would take shots from 20, 25 yards out, put them in the top corner, and then for whatever reason, for a year and a half, he was just slumping a bit. And I don't think it was a lack of quality. Like you said, I think it was just confidence. And whatever it is, I think some of the goals yesterday, the header goal, he got in front of his man, but really I think it was his second goal where he took a great touch off that pass from Alfonso. And then his second touch, he cut it, gathered himself, and then calmly placed it in the corner. That was really high quality. And I mean, to me, that's world class. Like if he's playing like that, he needs to be in the first 11, no matter what team he's on.
Yeah, I was going to say Bermuda or Brazil. If he does that, he's beating the defender in scoring like that. And there's not a defender that could defend that. So Steve, I'm going to throw this to you. Was his lack of form, let's say last year, I mean, Orlando to Besiktas is not a miniature jump. No. That's a massive step for a young player. Could that be it? Like it just took him a while to find his feet.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, everybody's path is different. Everybody has peaks and valleys. You guys talked about being up front, and it's a confidence thing. 100%. I mean, I'm glad we have someone like Daniel on who knows exactly how that feels. Like I remember scouting you, Daniel, when you're at Cornell and like just watching you bury goals and stuff. And, all of a sudden you miss a couple and you're Lucas Cavallini from last night and you're missing chances that should go in the back of the net. But how much do people love a story right now like him where he kind of went down and has built himself back up? It's like the story that people love the most. And he's hot. He's on fire. And you're right, Mark. The Turkish league is nothing to sneeze at. And the passion and the fire that those fans have and playing for Besiktas, which is a monster club. Like, this guy's done well to handle it now, and good on him for that. And it's how amazing is that for the Canadian team?
Yeah, no kidding. So let's jump from one. We're gonna go from positive.
Can we stay on Kyle for 1 second? I have one more point here because I was incredibly impressed by him. They mentioned it during the broadcast. I think he spent some time this year playing on the wing. But yesterday he was playing in a hybrid 10/second striker role. His feet have dramatically improved. His ability to turn, to stay calm on the ball, to check his shoulders, that was unbelievable. And I project looking forward, like he's undroppable no matter who the other striker is on the field. And I think he's done a great job of getting comfortable in that sort of hybrid second striker role.
Yeah, isn't that a nice problem to have for Canada, to have Cavallini, Jonathan David, Kyle Larin all vying for spots there? I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that usually David plays that little more withdrawn role like Larin was playing. Now Larin can do it. You could put David up top or vice versa. Like that's a nice selection problem.
It's an interchangeable 3 you can play. Like it's going to be insane. Except we just need Cavallini to bury those goals. So we're not going to dive into that too much. Like Cavallini's Cavallini. He's a workhorse. He'll always die for the cause. He'll run through a brick wall for you. He's 28 now. So like I keep thinking in my head, like, he'll come good and start putting those away, but it's been a while. And I guess he's, their strikers have different jobs, but the main job is to score goals. And, yesterday, all I could think of was, what if that's away at Honduras in the Hex? Like, you have to score those goals.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know what last night made me think of Steven Guvarch for the French team. Remember when they won and he was up top and it was like all these players, but like he just was up there. He was a workhorse. He did a role, but he wasn't really your goal scorer. That's what he reminds me of. But I don't know. My opinion is he might be the third of the two on the list right now if I'm picking for sure.
Yeah. So Daniel, I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to bring up, for me, a guy that surprised me in this game so much, and I loved it, and I think it's going to be huge going forward for Canada, was Atakubi at left back. Was he not? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I thought he was one of the best players on the field.
Yeah, I think, I actually overlapped with Sam in Vancouver a number of years ago. And at the time, I know he was fighting and he didn't really get his spot on the first team. And that's probably a big reason why he went overseas. He's a great player, and I think he's very capable of being the starting left back for the national team. He's solid, and he's really smart. If you paid attention to what they were doing last night with the ball, it was almost like a back three, right? Where he was on the left side and Alfonso popped wide. And the objective there was, don't force Sam to overlap Alfonso. Alfonso can take these guys on by himself, which he did time and time again, beat the guy to the line and crossed it in or created by combining. Whereas on the other side of the pitch, Richie Larea had more freedom to go forward, take guys on almost like a winger. And Sam just played the role perfectly. He was really solid defensively. Nobody got by him. And with the ball, he kept it simple. He completed his passes and he let the playmakers go and make plays. And to me, it seemed like that was the job that he was asked to do. And I don't think he put a foot wrong.
I agree. So, Steve, I'll flip the side to you. Like Daniel said, Larea was almost as high as Cavallini for the most of the game. It was insane how it was just nuts. But how good is this guy, man? Like, and he's still, even up to last year, wasn't in the first 11 every week for TFC, which is absolutely insane to me. But I mean, surely this year is like, this guy is a different. He's there now.
Yeah, I think he cemented himself there. I gotta say, I love that Daniel picked that out about 3 at the back, because when the game started, I kept saying, like, what's the left back doing? Like, why is he tucked in? So like, I was getting upset, and then I'm like, is he just afraid because Davies is there? And he but quite clearly it was tactical. And after I got past my what the hell's happening fandom there, that's such a good point. But Larea, love him. I mean, what a player, cemented. And his goal came from the left side. Like, he drifted over to the left side and he was played in. And what a finish man. Like,
I know.
Like, that's like, any striker would be proud of that. So just more depth for the country. Like, it's impressive.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you guys have noticed this season, and we sort of only did it on one side, where Sam would drop into the middle, almost like a defensive midfielder, right? Yep. And then play the balls wide and let the playmakers do their thing. But on the other side, Richie acted like a true winger.
Yes.
But what Sam was doing is really the tactics that Man City are deploying this year, where both their fullbacks come in, act as center mids, and then they want their wingers high and wide and let them go and attack. So, I mean, I'm sure that the coach of Canada is getting some ideas there.
Yeah. He was doing exactly like Zinchenko does. You're right. Like, that's why Man City plays center midfielders at fullback, because it's like, it's an easy tuck in to keep it. Now, I'm going to go from, we're praising a lot of players, to, for me, this player was, I mean, I hope you can disagree with me, because I don't always want to be a lovey-dovey, but I thought this guy was shocking yesterday, and that's Hoylett. I thought he was brutal. What do you think, Steve or Danny, whoever want to jump on that train? But he was not, for a guy who's 30, 31, has more experience than a ton of people, guy we look to count on. I mean, he was not it. Daniel.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. I'm not going to disagree. It wasn't his best performance. I think we've seen him put in a lot of really high quality performances with the national team. And you can see, right, we gave him the number 10 shirt. I think when he first committed to Canada, he was probably the most talented player in the pool. But when you look at what happened last night, and I think we'll get into it a little bit later with this Corbiano, I'm not sure he's the most talented guy. I'm not sure that if we need a goal right now or an assist, that Junior is going to be the one to deliver it. That being said, I think we've all seen his quality. So even if last night wasn't his best and he wasn't as sharp, I think this is our first national team game in over a year. That's pretty normal. I'm not selling his stock just yet.
Yeah, I got to agree with him, Marco. But let's get into Corbiano. Like, I'll just jump right in. Like, wow, that was impressive. Like, I think I saw like a 3-minute clip on YouTube before last night, and like the play that there is all over social media where he's doing the one-touch passing. Like, it's hard not to be impressed by that. Like, that's some quality stuff. That shows like speed of thought and just what a player and what a place to be. Wolves, like what a manager they've got there, what a squad. You know, all the Portuguese influence, like that's a great place to have. That this guy is something. And I think it was the announcer who said it, like, wouldn't you want him on the under 23s right now with the Olympic qualifying? Jeez.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny, and I'll throw this to Daniel, but like he's 18 and he's playing in the, in a Premier League team, and there's these comparisons of he's got the Ronaldo physique and he's got the Ronaldo mentality and the skill and this. And in my head, I'm like, Jesus, guys, like relax on this young player. And then he played yesterday, and I was like, he is Ronaldo. I was like so excited. What do you think, Daniel? Like his feeling is insane. No,
I guess, can you guys give me a little bit of background here? So I had to go and Google him after, but is he fully committed to Canada? He's gonna be on our national team.
Yeah, he's cap tied now after yesterday, so he's got no choice. Yeah.
So I mean, from what I saw yesterday, remove Alfonso and he's the next most talented guy on our team. His upside is tremendous. I think you hit it on the nail directly, which is his speed of play and his thought. When you watch the Premier League, it's not just that these guys are technical and check their shoulders. It's their one-touch passing, the pace of the ball, the weight of the ball. It gets played to the correct foot, his movement. It's just clean and seamless, and it looks like he's out there having fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see him. We need to get him in the first 11.
Oh, my God.
He's got to start against the Caymans. Like, he has to. You're not fighting the FA and Wolves to get him released to come on for 15 minutes. Like you're bringing him to play some minutes. You have to. So I'm not going to jump to the other wing and do Alphonso Davies. We all know Alphonso Davies is okay, right? He's not a bad player. So we'll move past him. I want to talk about another debutante, and I'm going to butcher this name, Eustachio. I think I hit it. I might have hit it actually. Yeah. But this guy's getting first team minutes in the Portuguese Premier League. Like, this guy's a real player too, with a good pedigree. But Steve, I'll throw it to you first, because he's kind of, to me, like in the Baldissimo mold right now. Like, I think he's so good, but he just kind of existed in the game. Like, he didn't do anything wrong, but he wasn't like.
Well, I'd like to see him in a game against a team that didn't resemble my old timers team, because like, we can talk about all the reasons why they weren't good last night, but really it still looked poor. Like, I'll be pretty critical, and it's not Canada, so I'm not going down a ledge, but like that captain last night for them was absolutely shocking. I thought at the back, like it looked like he didn't even run.
Bermuda,
For Bermuda, like it looked like he didn't even run. It looked like he was just like, I was just shocked by it. So anyways, what I'm getting at there is, like, I'd like to see Eustachio in a different game. I'd like to see what he's like in the middle when he's got to do a bit more dictating. He didn't have a lot he had to do. He just had to just keep the ball moving, just get it out wide to your playmakers, get it into Laren and those guys. So like, did he have to really defend? Sorta, at times when they had a half-hearted attempt. So I find it, I can't judge him on last night, to be honest. Even Atiba, he played well. He did what he did. We know him. But I mean, those aren't the games for those two. Like, I need to see those guys under a bit of pressure and trying to work the ball out the back when they're getting a bit of pressure. That's when I think we need to see his quality.
Yeah, Daniel, Steve hit it here with Hutchison. Now, do you think this guy plays it like whenever we can get him, he's a automatic first 11 still? Like, do we need him in the team every week?
I think that's tough. I think that we need a proper 8. If we're going to really compete in a big-time game against a U.S. or a Mexico, we need an 8. And I don't think Atiba's an 8 right now. I think he's a 6.
Yeah.
So to have him playing in a game where we're attacking next to another kind of nice playmaking 6 like Eustachio or Piet, where they're not going to dribble by anyone, they're going to keep it nice and tidy and let the flow moving. But we need a real 8. Like you see Man City with Gundogan, or you see like Wijnaldum in Liverpool, where they actually take a guy on in the midfield and break a line. And we're not good enough yet to not have one of those guys in the middle. So if your question is Atiba good enough to continue to play and be a starter? I think the answer is yes. The question is who's going to play next to him? Because I think if it's Bustacchio or Piet, if we go up against the big boys, we're going to lose the battle in the midfield. So it's kind of like 3 guys there for one position. Who wins it?
Can I just say I'm enjoying having Daniel on? Like he's killing me. His points are so good right now.
I know.
Like,
and you know who that one is, Daniel? It's got to be, we have to get Arfield back because he's that guy who can go and attack and defend, and just that's to me, him, when I read like he's not interested anymore, like that shattered my soul.
Is that what happened? Is he out?
Yeah. Herdman said he may still be available for some of the bigger games, but Arfield said he said the games were against too many poor oppositions. He's traveling a long way. It's hard for him. Like, because when he comes, like he loses his spot with Rangers, right? You know what I mean? So so I'm like, you know what? And I'm okay with that. Bring him in for the big games. I don't care. Like, as long as he's committed to come at some points, like we have to manage players just like Atiba. Like you got to manage these guys to get us to the World Cup. There's no like sentiments here, you know?
No, and I think when you look at the U.S. too, right? Like you see how many guys. I don't know if you guys follow the U.S. national team, but I've been watching most of their games the last number of years. You got these random games where guys from MLS that would never be on the field for a World Cup qualifier are the main man on the field. Yeah. So you're right. If the World Cup were to start right now, we'd need Scott Arfield here. But against these kind of weaker opponents, I'm not sure we need him on the field right now.
Yeah, you don't. That's a good point, Mark. Like the other thing too, this year of all years, like Rangers are about to win the title for forever. It's COVID. Like you can't take him out of that environment right now for a Bermuda game. If it's a Mexican game at Azteca, it may be a little different. Yeah. So I got a question to throw in here, Mark. What about you talk about how you manage players and stuff, and we got Alfonso, and that's awesome for these ones. What about the whole Kawhi Leonard load management thing with Alfonso here? Should they have taken him off last night? You know, like, do you want to keep Bayern happy? Do you want to make sure that you're, you know, not burning any bridges for down the line with him? Like, you know, I know it's your national team and all that, but let's be honest, Bayern's a power, right? Yes, Daniel. Go.
I think that's tough. I think, you know, they definitely mentioned something during the I thought the announcers were great, by the way. I just want to touch on that for 1 minute. David Edgar is a former teammate and a friend, and I think he's doing a great job. He seems like a natural on the air. And I think they touched on that Alfonso seems to have a lot more power with the national team, kind of dictating like where he wants to play. Mm-hmm. Maybe Bayern would be unhappy with him playing the full 90, but at the same time, if you watch the last 30 minutes of the game, when Sam went out, he was basically just playing left back. He was running when he wanted to. He didn't have to work that hard. He was coasting.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point.
So I'm going to stick on that defender theme that you just brought up. And what I liked is the old man at the back, Vittoria. He's 34, and I'm like, can he? But you know what? We played Bermuda, and like Steve said, they weren't in it. But this guy's uniform was covered in dirt after the 11th. He will die, and he doesn't care if it's Bermuda and we're up 5-1. He doesn't care. He's playing like it's 0-0 against Mexico from minute 1 to 9. He won me over yesterday. If Davies isn't there, give him the band. I mean, or Atiba. Like, this guy was, I don't know. He impressed the hell out of me. Daniel, do you know him at all? Like, what do you think of Vittoria?
Yeah, I have met him on a couple of occasions, and that guy's just a consummate professional. Like, you can tell he wants to be there. He feels pride when he wears the badge. He cares, and obviously, you know, he wants to be there. He's flying from across the world. I don't think he's ever played in North America. Every time I've seen him play, I've been impressed. Like you said, it's tough to gauge how, you know, athletic he is compared to top competition. But for these games right now, I think he needs to be a staple. He cares. He's very competent. He's very neat and tidy at the back.
Yeah. And with like Steve, if you got a old man, you know, beast as center back, there's no better partner than like Kamal Miller, who's like a super athlete, strong, fast, you know, like super intelligent passer too. Like he's the perfect partner for him, no?
Yeah, he is. And I think there's another one that's at the U23 we were talking about off air, Derek Cornelius, who he's really looking the part down there in Mexico. And, you know, I thought yesterday he was absolute stud again. And it just made me think, like, there's a guy playing in the Mexican altitude and getting that CONCACAF experience that's only going to pay dividends for the full national team and for him and his career moving forward. So, I mean, there's another foil for him. And I think, Daniel, you might know him or whatnot, but what a player.
Oh yeah, Derek. Derek actually grew up in Toronto, and then I played with him when he was only 15. He was an attacking mid.
Wow.
He was feeding me balls to score in our youth league. Yeah. So I don't think Derek became a center back until he was like 19, and so that's why he has such great quality with that left foot of his. But yeah, from what I've seen, like he's an absolute beast at the back. He wins his headers. He's great at blocking shots. He just understands the positioning really well. Very clever.
Yeah. So I'll bring up a couple more players and we'll take a rain check until the next game. But I want to talk about another player who came on and impressed the absolute hell out of me, and that's Liam Miller. Like, he came in, went out on that left, and took a player on and beat his man. I mean, he was a danger. I almost swore. Well, I never swear on here, and I almost swore.
Over Liam Miller.
He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I don't know if you had a chance to overlap with him, Daniel, because he's relatively new, but this guy, imagine him and Corbianu or on the wings. Like, these guys are tricky.
Yeah, I think Liam Miller, no, I did not overlap with him, but I'm incredibly impressed. I think that's the kind of guy that you see that just feels very natural with the ball. He wants the ball at his feet. He's almost like in a park playing, and he knows he has the ability to take the guy on. I think one time he got to the byline, sent a great cross with his left foot, and that's how we scored the goal, right, with Corbianu. Yeah. Another time he cut in, took a shot. He just seems to have a lot in his bag and versatility. I think the announcers touched on it too, that he's someone who brought in energy, but I think that's actually undermining his quality. Because to me, when you say someone brings in energy, they're really hustling out there. This guy was all quality. The ball was under control. You could see from the TV exactly what he wanted to do, and he was clean.
Yeah, very good point. Like, good personality, but not someone you want to date is kind of like the compliment they were giving him. It was like, well, that's not true. Like, he's actually beating people and smashing some great shots at goal here. Another one that, like, good for Canada, and he's this generation coming through. Like, he's at Liverpool, he hasn't really gotten in. He's gone out on loan at Charlton, and he's succeeding. But like, they're not giving up, these kids. Like, they're not, packing it in after the first one, or like, and they just keep going, and it's given us some good depth. I want to ask Daniel one thing here before I forget and don't have a chance. Mark, we've talked about it on this show, Daniel. What do you think about this golden generation moniker that sort of Canadian press and people seem to have thrown onto this age group?
Well, I think you could kind of put it in parallel to what the US is seeing, right? And to me, it's not really about like a golden generation. It's more about, we're now 10, 12 years into the infrastructure of MLS academies, right? TFC started as a club when I was in grade 11. So people that I knew that were my age didn't grow up with a professional team to look at and aspire to. And the money was no good.
Yeah.
And now we're 10, 12 years, kids from the time they're born see stars, right? And I don't think we want to coin it like a golden generation. I think we should now expect that every 1 or 2 years, we're going to get one really great player and a bunch of depth that could become great players. And in 5 or 6 years, we're not going to be talking about just this crew of 4 or 5 good players. There's going to be people under them that are pushing them. And the status quo isn't going to be, can you get some regular minutes in a mediocre league? It's going to be, are you getting regular minutes as a first 11 player in a top 5 or 10 league in the world? And hopefully, like the US, at some point in the next, 6, 7 years, if you're a starter in MLS, probably not going to be good enough for the national team anymore.
Jeez, that's right. I was just about to say that. I said, to your point is absolutely perfect. And imagine the day when Canada can look at our roster and be like, whoa, they left him out. I can't believe that. Like, imagine that's coming. That's not far away. And that is a super place to be, not for the player who gets left out, but for us.
Well, so look at the players right now that are kind of, the staples in MLS, right? You've got now newly like Richie Larea, and you've got Cavallini, and you've got Azorio, and you've got Piet. Those guys are almost shoe-in starters for the national team the last 4 or 5 years. They're in form for their club. You don't really have that many guys overseas that are starting for bigger clubs than those.
Yeah.
But if you put those guys on a field against world-class talent, we're not dominating the midfield there. We're not dominating those games. So how do we get to the point where we have guys that are in that type of form but playing in better quality leagues?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
no,
great
it's a
point. I
great-
love
yeah.
that. It's like I don't like the golden generation. It's like the English thing. I think it puts a bad connotation, but I think that's a great way to look at it. The academy system and what it's done for both Canada and the US. You're seeing it big time in the US, but you're seeing it seep through to us now a lot more. And I think that's a great point. I never thought about that over the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5. We should be producing one every couple of years and added depth. I think that's a very, very good way to look at that. That's a great answer. Love
Yeah.
Well, and
So-
also I think, I spent some time in the USL where I played for a couple of second teams.
Yeah.
And what I saw was the biggest gap between Europe and North America is in Europe. If you sign with a professional team, say you sign with a Liverpool or a Man U, or even a lower team like Newcastle, and you're 16, 17 years old, right? They probably keep you on the roster for 1 year or 1 year and a half. They give you a couple of cup appearances. And if you can't break through, they send you on loan. But you go on loan to a League One team where you're playing with men, and the coach doesn't have to start you. And the guys on the team are playing for their bonuses and playing for promotion, relegation, and you just learn how to be a man. And either you sink or swim. And if you see a guy like Mason Mount where he thrives, and then they bring him back up to the parent club and he's ready to be a man, he's 22 years old. Great. What I saw in MLS was a lot of these players are equally as talented when they're 16, 17, but then they come up to the first team and they don't get a chance.
Yeah.
And instead of sending them permanently on loan somewhere to really fight for their position, they have these second teams where it's like, oh, you can go play there for a game, but it doesn't really matter how you do or how they do. We don't care. And they're just sort of kids playing on that team anyway. We don't care so much. And between 18 and 22, how do these kids develop? And I don't need to name names, but I'm sure if you look at Vancouver, you look at TFC, how many kids have we seen that are 18 years old and promising, and then 4 years later, they've been on MLS rosters for a number of years with a handful of appearances, and then they're let go, and that's it. And now they're 22 and they're not world class.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know
Yeah,
what,
no,
Ian,
it's
you
true.
brought that up with us as well about, being on TFC2 when you're 22 years old, as opposed to, fighting in a league in Europe where you're, like you said, it's someone fighting for their bonus, fighting for a paycheck, and fighting for their career. And you learn differently. And his point at the time was, those are the players that should be called into the national team over the kid who hasn't played for 4 years, through no fault of his own or through a fault of his own, whatever that is, but just that willingness to go to those levels. And I think Liam Miller, like we just talked about, it's another one of those showing
Perfect
that,
example. Yep.
perfect example. And now look at how well he did yesterday. So
Yeah, it's exactly what Daniel said. It's like the Jordan Hamiltons of the world. Even Julian Dunn now for TFC. It's like, you got to see this guy playing now. He's not going to he's just going to fade. But these guys are quality. They are.
But where's the incentive structure, right? So
Is that me?
yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Pause
Oh,
for a minute. You're back.
You're back.
Okay.
You glitched a little bit. That's all right.
in MLS, you have to make the playoffs every year, right? So
Yeah.
the coach doesn't really have time to develop. So at what point is there a shift to, no, we want to actually make sure that 3 or 4 or 5 guys every single year are getting a real sniff at this? I haven't seen it so far.
No.
No, my hope is with TFC this year. I mean, I think Bill Manning came out and said, he's like, we're not going to sign a whole whack of players this year because they've got the Dunns and the Nelsons coming in on the wing, and there's Prizo and all these guys. And I really hope it's true, because to me, that's what is going to make me as a Canadian tune into TFC. If I see
Agreed.
7 foreigners come in that are established pros and then all these guys get pushed to the side, I'm not interested. So I really hope he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
So with that said, I don't want to wrap it up because this is like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But we'll wrap it up and we'll come back after the the Canada-Mexico game and the Canada-Cayman game. And hopefully, Daniel, you can join us for both next time if you've got time. But yeah, thanks for popping in, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This was a pleasure.
Yeah.
That was
All right.
awesome.
See you
Thanks,
guys
Daniel.